So you've seen the pay charts online, right? You're going to be a brand new private coming into the United States Army and you're like, holy crap, I'm not going to make a lot of money as a private in the Army. Well, I'm here to give you the real numbers because it is pretty low, but there's other things you got to factor in. Because if you're someone who's considering joining the United States Army, you know that you're going to be a private for a little while. Maybe you got a family, maybe you're single. You're wondering, can I support myself? Can I support my family on this income? Well, I'm going to give you the real answers. I'm going to break it down for you in this video. You're coming into the Army, you're looking at that pay chart, and it's very scary. It's not a very high number when you're coming in as a private. Coming in as an officer, maybe a little bit better, but for a lot of you that are probably watching this video, you're probably coming in as a private and you're thinking to yourself, how am I going to afford to live off of that kind of money? There's more to it than that. Let me kind of break some things down. I'll break it down in different ways, right? Because if you're a single soldier, it works one way. If you're a married soldier, it works a little bit differently. So a lot of this concern sometimes is from those married individuals. They see that number for how much they're going to make as a private in the United States Army, and they're concerned. I don't know if that's enough to pay rent. I don't know if that's enough to feed my family, take care of my family, take care of myself. Let me give you the real down and dirty of how this kind of works out, though. So starting off, you're looking at that pay chart. E1, E2 doesn't make a whole lot of money in the United States Army, in the military really for that matter, because it's the military pay chart, right? 2 years or less, right? Very beginning, right? E1 with less than 2 years is only making $2,319 a month, okay? Now, you do get paid twice, so that does get split into half, and you get paid on the 1st and the 15th. E2, a little bit higher, but still not great, right? $2,599.20 per month. I'll kind of break this down mainly for an E2 because if you're an E1 coming into the Army, you're not usually E1 for very long, maybe 6 months, and then you're getting promoted to E2 anyways. So kind of break this down for E1, E2, right? E2 is kind of the easiest way to kind of break this down as the full scenario, because shortly after you get that done with basic training, AIT, OSIT, whatever, you're probably soon after that getting promoted to an E2 anyways. So I'll kind of give you those numbers. Now, if we're going to go off of that, we're going with the E2, right? That $2,599.20 per month, split in half. This is also before taxes come out. But there's a lot of things you need to understand with taxes. So this is where your paycheck may be different than your battle buddy's paycheck because everybody still has to pay federal taxes, right? You're in the military, you still got to pay federal taxes, right? The only exception to that is like in a combat zone, but we're not talking about that here. So federal taxes, Social Security, medical, Medi-Cal, Medicaid, whatever, right? You got to pay those taxes, the basic taxes that everybody has to pay. You still got to pay it. But then there's also the state factor. Now, it does not matter where you're stationed at. You're stationed in Colorado, Texas, California, whatever. You pay taxes based on where you're a citizen from, right? So if you are originally coming from, let's say, Colorado, which is what I'm going to use in this example, then you have to kind of go off of Colorado, how they do taxes. Because if you're coming from, let's say, Nevada doesn't have state income tax. So then that means if that is your home of record, that is the state you are a resident of, that's where your driver's license is from, all that kind of stuff, then you don't pay state taxes because your state doesn't take out taxes for income tax. If there is other states, because sometimes there's also states that may take out income tax for state, but they don't take it out if you're in the military. You have to kind of check which states do that and which ones don't. Colorado is not one of the ones to do that. So if you're in that scenario, that's what I'm using for this example. You still got to pay state taxes, right? But it's based on the state that you're from. So I use ChatGPT to kind of help me figure this out. You can use whatever AI you want if you want to kind of do it that way, or you can do it the old-fashioned mathematical way, right? So it kind of breaks it down because, like I said, that paycheck is split into two. Then that two has to, each paycheck still has to get taxed for state and federal and Medicare, all that kind of stuff like that. So here we have the net pay, the take home, what you actually get to take home, right? That is going to be for an E2, $1,055.13 is what they actually take home. If you're a single soldier, that's what your take home is. If you're a married soldier, there's other factors in there that I'm about to get to here in a minute. So don't worry, don't panic. If you are a married soldier or married coming into the Army, right, yours is gonna be a little higher. I'll get into that. But if you're single, that's all you get, all right? So on the 1st and the 15th, you are gonna be getting $1,055 roughly. There are other factors in there that could cause that to be a little bit lower. Things like when you're first in the Army, you have to pay a little bit into like the GI Bill, Maybe you have like certain kind of extra perks like SGLI and other things that you elected to do to, you know, have better life insurance and all sorts of other kind of factors that could kind of factor in there too. So that number may not be exact. It may be a little bit lower, maybe pretty close to the same. A lot of factors that kind of play into that. If you work a civilian job right now, that may be much less than what you currently take home or get, possibly, right? But there's factors you need to think about this. If you're a single soldier, you don't have to pay rent. Civilian side, if that was your paycheck, yeah, you'd have to use some of that to be able to afford your rent. You'd also have to use some of that to pay for utilities. You have to use some of that to buy groceries. Single soldiers don't have to do that. They live in the barracks. They don't pay utilities when you live in the barracks. Technically, you can eat for free-ish, right? You can go eat at the chow hall, right? And that's, you don't, it doesn't cost you anything, right? Some people get it confused though, because they go and they look at their, basically their pay stub. It's called a LES, your Leave Earnings and Statements in the Army. And they look at that and they see that they got taken out some money for BAS, which is your money that you would normally get paid for food. But if you really look carefully, you'll see that you got it and then they took it back. And then the numbers don't equal out exactly the same. They did take out a little bit more than what they gave you. So there is still kind of a little bit that you are sort of paying for, but not the full amount. So a lot of people get that confused and they see that, hey, they're taking out $400 out of my paycheck for food. No, not really. They gave you that and then they kind of took it back because you're not an individual that's authorized to keep it. So don't get that too confused. They didn't take it out of that, let's say in this example, that $1,055. They didn't take that out of your actual pay. They gave it to you and then took it away from you. Now, if this is surprising to you, hit that thumbs up. Or hell, if you're just here right now, hit that thumbs up right now on that video, because other people probably want to know this information. And if the YouTube algorithm sees that, hey, enough of you find this interesting enough, then other soldiers or other new potential soldiers are going to see this video and get that insight. So make sure you hit that thumbs up. So now if you're a married individual, right, you want to know, hey, can I support my family? Well, you get extra incentives when you're married in the military. When you're married in the Army, you receive 2 additional parts of your paycheck, right? You're going to also get what is known as BAH, which is an allowance for housing. And you're also going to receive an additional amount for food, which is for the soldier, not for the entire family. So no matter if you have 5 kids, 1 kid, no kids, it's the same amount because it's really for the soldier, not for the family. So that set amount for enlisted soldiers is $465.77 for 2025 or 2025. Okay. That is that amount that you get allocated to you for the soldier to be able to use that to buy groceries. But again, that is per month. So even this is going to get split in half per paycheck. So you're going to get half of that per paycheck. Then when it comes to housing, it's different for every location. Right here in this example, we're going to say that you're stationed in Fort Carson, right? You're in Colorado. So in that case, as an E2, that's $2,160 you get per month to use for housing. But that is also going to get split in half. So now you might be thinking, okay, well, now I add all that onto there, plus state taxes, federal taxes, all that stuff. No, all right. BAH and BAS are not taxed. So you would simply just split those in half and add them on top of what your estimate is of what you're going to take home after taxes. Add this on there because taxes aren't taken out of the housing and the food allowance. Those are non-taxable. The only thing that's taxable is your actual base pay, whatever it is based on your pay grade. That part is taxable. Housing, food, not taxed. So now is what we're looking at on top of that take-home pay that you're getting. You're getting that food allowance, housing allowance, split in half. In this case, $1,312 additionally that is added to that. So now for a married soldier, that gets our grand total to take home for a married soldier to $2,367 per paycheck, right? So that's twice a month, you're getting $2,367 to pay bills. There's a good chance that's more than you make at your civilian job now. I'm going to put this out there. That's slightly more than I make at my civilian job working for the United States Army. So a married E2 makes a little bit more than I make at my civilian job. And I got a pretty good civilian job, right? I have security clearance. I got to teach soldiers. You know, I got to work exercises and stuff like that. So when you look at it that way, you know, being married has got some pretty good perks. Being in the military, you get paid a little bit more. Of course, a single soldier doesn't make as much as I do, right? But a single soldier also doesn't have to pay your rent. I have a mortgage to pay. I have utilities to pay, right? So depending on how many bills you have, maybe that's pretty damn good, right? You're a single soldier, maybe you don't have a whole lot of bills. Maybe you got a car payment, maybe you got to pay car insurance, a few other things. It may kind of just factor in there, but you got to kind of allocate things properly so you're not just living paycheck to paycheck, hopefully. Now you got to be cautious because that looks pretty nice, right? If you're a married soldier, you're like, man, that looks pretty nice, you know, of what you're going to make. And you single soldiers are like, I'd like to make that much money. Maybe I should hurry up and get married. Don't rush into marriage, right? If you didn't see my last video, right, there's probably a factor in there of why divorce rates are kind of high. It's because people rush into things when they shouldn't be rushing into things because they want that extra pay. They want to get out of the barracks. Don't do that. Now, what do you think, right? Does this look like this is going to be enough for you to pay your bills? Not enough for you to pay your bills, right? Did you expect it to be higher, lower? Is it enough? Let me know down in the comment section down below. Maybe if you are someone who is not currently in the Army, is that more than you make at your civilian job, or is it less? But also remember, you don't get paid extra probably for housing. But so looking at the housing side of it, right, with BAH, with BAS, is that more than what you make at your civilian job or less? Let me know in the comments. Now, for some of you, you may be kind of wondering, you know, how does that compare to like if I got a job at just Amazon or maybe Walmart or something like that? Because sometimes that's a big comparison that people kind of use of saying like, hey, I probably could have just gone to work at Walmart and made better money. But is that really true? Well, you're in luck because I actually did a breakdown on that and I got that video right here. So go watch that after you're done with this one. Check it out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thank you, though, for sticking around and watching this video. If you made it all the way this far, hit thumbs up. Let me know what your current jam is that you're listening to while you work out or whatever kind of thing. I don't know. I'm Christopher Chaos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. See ya.